Hello, it's Peter Wright and Kathleen Beauvais with another weekly wrap up. And this is for the week ending 28th of March, 2025. So we're a week into spring and we've had 3 nights of light snowfall. Isn't that crazy? Kathleen, how are you today?
Yes, I'm doing great, thank you. And thank you also very much for tuning in. And do you know, Peter, 5 years this month we've been doing this podcast.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. 5 years. Wow. Hey.
And it's been
Gee.
such a ride and such a great time. So, and thank you all for tuning in with us. We so appreciate it, really, and we're having a blast.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. We met so many interesting people through this.
Have we
It's
ever?
quite from all over the world too. Quite incredible. Anyway, Kathleen, do you want to go straight into your
I
deep
will go
dive?
straight into the deep dive, Peter. This is one where it might gross some people out, but I'm going to talk about it because it's
Hmm.
something that everybody should be aware of, and that is the hidden chemical cocktails in your grocery store chicken. And now this is
Wow.
an article taken from Dr. Mercola. We will provide the full link to the article below this video. But here's the thing, Peter. Have you ever wondered what's in that slimy, watery liquid that surrounds the raw chicken in its packaging? Well, let me tell you, conventional chicken is often soaked in chemical baths, including chlorine solutions to reduce bacterial contamination. By the way, this is a practice that has been banned in the European Union since
Hmm.
1997
Wow.
but not here in North America. So chlorine washed chicken may absorb chemical residues through its porous muscle tissue, which raises safety concerns, of course. So US regulations do not require processors to disclose the use of chemical washes or antimicrobial treatments
Hmm.
on chicken packaging, keeping consumers unaware of what their food has been exposed to. Can you believe that? Ugh. Those chemical treatments, by the way, are not just about sanitizing. They're part of a process that quite literally waters down your dinner. The industry calls it plumping or enhancing, sure, which sounds innocent enough until you realize what's really happening. Your chicken is being injected with a cocktail of water, salt, and phosphates that can boost its weight up to 15%. In other
Hmm.
words, you're paying premium chicken prices of what's essentially added water. So when you cook this chemically enhanced meat, all that added water leaches out, taking with it not just the artificial solutions, but also the natural flavors and the nutrients of that chicken. So industrial chicken processing prioritizes speed over hygiene, with some facilities handling, get this, up to 2 million chickens daily. Whew,
Hmm.
creating conditions that require chemical interventions to compensate for poor sanitation. So, what's the solution? Well, they suggest choosing pasture-raised, naturally processed chicken, which supports humane farming, cleaner processing practices such as air chilled. So, we've seen that on packages, haven't we, where it says air chilled. So, look for that.
Hmm.
And higher quality nutrition while reducing reliance on chemical interventions. And you know what, Peter? I have to say this because I buy organic beef, organic, say like ground beef, and I have
Hmm.
noticed that when I go to uh, saute or fry that meat, I am getting probably a cup of water. This isn't grease because I buy extra lean meats,
Hmm.
but it's like I'm getting like at least a cup of water from a pound of ground beef. And I
Really?
never used to have that, never. So I don't know what's involved in the organic processing, but something's there.
Hmm.
I don't know if
Hmm.
you've noticed that, but
No, well, I don't cook. Unfortunately, I have a good lady that looks after me very well. So, in fact, she can't trust me in the kitchen because I tend to make a mess. And so I only cook when I have to, so I don't notice that. But, that's very interesting what you're saying about the chemicals, and that's over and above whatever was put into those chickens when they were still alive, right?
well, you know what? I always go for antibiotic-free. and organic meats as much as possible. And this is why I'm an advocate for local farmers, right? And get to know your local farmers and befriend them
Right.
because my goodness, they're just wonderful. You just want to know what
Yeah,
you
because even locally produced chicken, if it's free range, even if it's not classified as organic for whatever reason, is still going to be a lot healthier and have far fewer chemicals and adverse stuff in it, right?
well, you would hope so.
You would hope so. Yeah. So yeah, very interesting. Wow. Makes you think, doesn't it, eh? Wow.
And
So, yes.
yeah, well, since we're talking about cleaner food, what better segue than to talk about cleaning your body? We do a spring cleaning every year in our houses. Well, what
Yep.
about spring cleaning your body, right? And I spoke about this last week where I am actually doing Dr. Morse's cleaning, body cleaning. And it's done with tinctures that you add to a little bit of water. So they come like this, where you put some drops in a glass, and then you add just maybe a wee bit of water, and then you take it, and it's not that bad, really. It's not. But I mean, there's, for instance, brain and your nervous system. There's lymphatics. Lymph drainage, which is very important, as well as kidney filtration. So there's a lot of tinctures to help with the support of your lymphatic systems as well as your kidneys. I also take the GI broom, which really helps to clean out your gut. And there's even a parasite micro, which gets rid of, you know how parasites, you have big guys and you have little guys. Well, this stuff will actually get rid of the small parasites and we all have them. Sorry to tell you this, but we all have them. But every now and again, it's good to clean yourself out of that. And we will post a link to Dr. Morse's uh, products below this video. And if you put in Yakking Show in the discount code, you will get a discount on all of his products. So there.
Well done. Very good. I've got just you mentioned parasites. I happened to read an article which was on Dr. Yocker's, I think, and he talks about natural herbs that will get rid of parasites as well. But the one statistic that I'd long forgotten was that tapeworms can grow to 10 feet in the human intestine. I knew that they got big. I didn't realize they got to 10 feet. Yeah, they've had 10-foot long tapeworms in humans. And he said something like 30% of all Americans have some sort of internal parasite, and they particularly talking about helminths, as roundworm, hookworm, tapeworm, or liver fluke. 30% of Americans have, right? And it's not solely lower income people living in poor sanitary conditions. He said that affects people right across the economic and social spectrum. So
Right.
good idea to clean it and clean yourself out regularly. The other really interesting health one that I picked up this week, and this was on an Epoch Health article, was about a little exercise called the soleus. I hope I pronounced that right. Push up. And this exercises the soleus muscle while you're sitting at your desk. All you do is you lift your heel off the floor and you push down on your soles. So it doesn't cause any vibration. So if you're in a busy office, it's not going to affect anyone else. But the soleus muscle only accounts for, I think it's 8% of your body mass. However, it's full of slow twitch fibers. I think I've got this right, which means it's great at oxidizing stuff you don't want in your body and using up extra glucose, right?
This
So there's a
is
lot more to
interesting.
it, but you need to read the whole article.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wow,
so
that's
that
fascinating.
little muscle,
Can you
so
tell us how to do that again?
yeah, so what you do, you sit at your desk or your table or wherever you're sitting,
Yeah.
and press your sole of your foot down and lift your heel right up so you stretch your calf muscles, right? And then you relax, and then you do it again. And it says if you do this several times a day for 10 or 15 repetitions of each one, you will get quite a lot of exercise and quite a lot of benefit of all sorts of improvements to your body. So if you can't get out and run and walk and go to the gym, then you can do this while you're sitting down. So it's an interesting one. So we'll put a link below in the description. We'll put a link to it. Yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. So it's there's no excuse. Even if you don't have time or the ability to do a lot of strenuous exercise, you can do little things like this. There's a whole lot of other small exercises you can do at home to
Right.
help you. And because of my advancing age, I am very conscious of not wanting to lose mobility. So I do a whole range of exercises, and one of which is touch toes, touch sky. In other words, bending down to touch my toes without bending my knees. When I first started that a few weeks ago, I struggled to get to my toes. Now I can actually almost flatten the palm of my hand on the floor, right? So
Wow.
it shows that it helps mobility.
For
And I
sure.
think I've told you, I don't want to go on too long, but I think I've told you about the balancing one, where it says when you're in your 20s, you can stand on one leg with your eyes closed for 20 or 30 seconds. By the time you get to 70, you're lucky if you can do 1 second. So I didn't believe it, and I was falling over at three. But I've been doing that exercise for several weeks, and I can now get to 15 seconds on each leg with my eyes closed. So
Excellent.
goes. All these things help as you get older. Right. Anyway, enough about my exercise stuff. Let's talk about what's happened on the show this week. Unless you've got anything else on health,
No, you go
Kathleen, or you
ahead,
don't.
Peter.
What happened on the show this week? Well, this week being the second week, we did not have a guest. Our last guest was Thea Trussler last week. She was on the 18th, and she trains service dogs to help people who need assistance. And that could be for things like autism, ADHD, or some condition that renders people pretty helpless and they can't get to a telephone, for instance. So the service dogs are trained to react either by bringing them their pills or jumping on their chest or going to get help. Very good episode to watch or to listen to. Coming up next week, we have Logan Wright, my namesake, and his company produces Greco gum, and it's a mastic gum produced from a tree on the island of Chios in Greece. And he talks about all the benefits of a mastic gum, how it exercises your jaws, and there's lots of benefit. So you need to tune into that one. And 2 weeks after that will be Dr. Carol Mentz, who is quite a hot topic. She talks about the best sex ever after menopause. So that's an interesting one for both men and women. That's coming up in 2 weeks after that. I think that'll be on the 15th of April. And there's plenty more guests coming after that. What I did want to mention is a guest we had a few weeks ago, Scott Bucco, my brain mechanic, and he's put out a video with an interview with the mother of one of his patients who he helped recover from traumatic brain injury. And the progress this youngster made is actually incredible. So I would encourage you, if you know of someone or if you've had a traumatic brain injury, to watch that video and also to look at or listen to Scott's episode. And there'll be a link in the description on that one. And I think, Kathleen, that's it as far as interviews and guests and episodes. But let's talk about a book. And I didn't bring my book with me, but the book we're featuring this week is the Cupping Book by Dr. Tom Ingenio, who was on our show last year. And cupping is an ancient practice, healing practice, been around for about 5,000 years from the early Chinese civilizations. And they used to use animal horns, but it's much easier and heat with fire. Nowadays, they use silicone cups and you don't need any fire. And I've done it on my good lady for back pain, and she says she can feel the difference. So it's a really good book. If you want to use this procedure at home, it tells you all about it. So there we are. And that, I think, is it from me, Kathleen.
All right. Well, thank you all so very much for tuning in. And until next week, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.